Everyone, it's been a while. We are here for another live with Dimitri, Mellos. I'm Valeria, Cunha from Street MACADAM. Welcome to this live and thank you for joining, and I hope you are having a wonderful summer. Dimitri Mellos is a Greek photographer. He was born in Athens, but he moved to New York City in 2005. He studied philosophy and psychology, so let's see if this has a big impact in his work. See if things work correctly. Oh, Dimitri is already joined. Hello, can you hear me well?
I can hear you well now. I'm sorry, I had some technical difficulties here.
Yeah, sometimes it happens in Instagram. I don't know if it's overloaded, but
Mm,
first of all, thank you for accepting our invite or
it's
invitation
my
for this
it's my
live.
my pleasure
Uh,
and my honor. Thank you so much.
I'm a
Thank you for
fan of
inviting me.
Greece and your country. I've been there many times.
Ah,
You spend your holidays a lot there, or
it's a blessing and a curse, when you're from Greece, because yes, I do end up going every summer, and of course, I enjoy it, but I wish I had time to travel to other destinations also. But yeah, I end up going every year.
so, Dimitris, today we are here
Hmm.
to talk about your work, and
Hmm.
I would like you to explain us or go through how you started your journey in photography. Are you a professional or it's a hobbyist? Let us know how this passion came alive.
So, I think I'm neither a professional nor a hobbyist, I would say, because I think everybody who pursues um, an activity like this very seriously and passionately, it goes beyond being a hobby. But also, I'm not making my living from this, so I'm not a professional. And part of the reason is when I was young, I didn't have the imagination to even think that this could be a career. I didn't realize that people do this for a living sometimes. Um, and then when I realized that, it was too late. But in a way, with hindsight, I don't regret that I didn't pursue this professionally because, I didn't want to be a starving artist. And it's hard to make a living as a photographer. Some people do, but it's not easy. But I think the other thing is that, if you're doing this profession, you end up, doing what your clients want, right? A lot of the time you're hired
Yeah.
to do a job and you have to please your clients. So in this way, at least I have the freedom to just pursue my own projects and, do whatever interests me, and I don't have to answer to anybody other than myself. So
But when
in a
did you
way,
start photography? When was that, and why you?
I I don't know. I don't know why. I was very drawn to this medium since I was a child, since I was a young child actually. Um, and many people who start photography, they had somebody in their family who encouraged them or inspired them. Nobody in my family was interested in photography, so I didn't have any influence. But I was very very drawn to this medium from a young age, like even when I was 9 or 10 years old. And at that time I had a Kodak Instamatic camera, back in the days of film. And most of the time, my parents didn't really encourage this as a hobby. So most of the time, I didn't even have film for the camera. But I actually would walk around and I would look through the viewfinder and push the button and wind the film that was not there. But I was really going through the motions of taking photographs. And I think the process was very meaningful to me because it made me pay attention to the world. So I think, there was something intuitively appealing to that, in that for me from a young age, paying attention to the world. And I think um, the underlying, um, I guess, desire is to somehow stop time, to save something from the passage of time.
Did
I
it
think
start
that's
in Greece or started when you moved to New York?
no. I started in Greece when I was a young child. Like I said, I was doing this when I was a child. I didn't have film at that time. I was just, but that that has made me realize that I was very drawn to the medium of photography since a young age. And then, of course, I didn't pursue it because, like I said, it was not encouraged by my family. I had this camera without film most of the time, so I stopped doing it after a while. And then when I was a teenager, I started, being interested again, but I didn't know anything. I was not very cultural at that time. I was not from a very artistic family. So I didn't know anything about photography as a medium. I didn't know the history of the medium. So I didn't know what you can actually do with a camera. I was very naive. Um, and then in my early 20s, I did a kind of year-long seminar in Greece in the history of photography, and then I learned, because so we would watch slideshows of the work of the great photographers, and that's when I finally realized what you can do with a camera. Um, Sadly, I was not, I back then I was shooting black and white film. I did that for a while. I could see that maybe had a little bit of talent. But then for a few years, I stopped photographing again because, I had to go to the army in Greece. It was mandatory. So that was kind of a pause. And then somehow I was living there and I couldn't, I was experiencing some kind of creative block and I couldn't find anything that I seemed interesting to photograph. And I realized now, of course, I was completely blind because it's a very fascinating place, especially for street photography. But sometimes, when you live in a place, you get too used to it and you don't notice things anymore. So um, I wanted to pursue photography. So I love the work of you know, some photographers who were working in New York in the 60s, like, Lee Friedlander, Gary Winogrand, those guys. So then I got the idea maybe if I go to New York, I'm going to start doing photography seriously. So that was part of the reason I came to New York because I wanted to do this type of photography. And yeah, I was not doing it in my own country. Of course, now I'm very upset whenever I go back because I never photographed enough in Greece and I see it so fascinating now and I don't live there anymore. So
And why street photography?
say that again.
Why street photography?
Well, I'm not sure. I don't even like this label very much because I don't think William Klein would say, he was a street photographer. I don't think Cartier-Bresson would say he was a street photographer. I think it's too limiting to, and I don't just do street. But I prefer, I think it's candid documentary photography, um, uh, and I think what drew me to that is because I'm interested in real life. I think photography is about documenting what's really there. I'm not very interested in conceptual work or, studio work when it's, kind of something that's made up. I mean, there are studio portraits that I love. For example, even famous um, people who work in the studio, like Irving Penn. He was a fashion photographer, but he has this great series of studio portraits of it's called Small Trades. The book is called Small Trades, and it's like people who, people who were cleaning the streets, or like the butcher, or the baker, or like, people like that. And he took them to the studio and took very beautiful portraits of them. So I can appreciate that, because it's actually, even though it's studio photography, it's like real people. It's not something that's made up. But I think what drew me to photographing on the street is because I'm interested in life unfolding, and I'm just curious about the lives of other people, and the life of the city. Also, the city is an interesting
Yeah.
place where you see so many stories happening at the same time. Yeah.
Do you think your background in psychology and philosophy has anything to do with your style and going to the streets?
I don't think so. No, I don't think so. I mean, I'm not
Because
a
you're an
conceptual.
observer as a psychologist.
Huh? Say
You're
that
an
again.
observer. As a
Yes,
psychologist,
in
you're an
in that sense,
observer.
yes, but not because of my studies. I think because I'm not a conceptual photographer. I'm not interested in like illustrating theoretical ideas or anything like that. But I think you're absolutely right. I think the underlying foundation is the same, and has, I think, inspired both of these pursuits that I have in my life, because I think the underlying foundation is a curiosity and an interest in other people. Yeah. So in that sense, I think that's what drew me to psychology, and that's also what drew me to photography. Yeah,
Okay.
I'm interested in the
And
lives
how
of
did you
others.
develop your own style? Because you have a particular style.
That's
You
good. That's good to know. It's hard to.
It is. You photograph both in the color and black and white, and your photos always have a story, and sometimes have different layers. The stories, and also a bit surrealism. I love this photo. It
Uh
really
huh.
puzzles me a lot.
Everybody loves this photo. So,
Was this in Brooklyn or?
well, this is a little island. Well,
Uh,
so yeah, it's a little island called Governor's Island that's between Manhattan and Brooklyn. So you can see Lower Manhattan there in the background. And I just went there one day, and I didn't expect to find this. It was like this was actually a Polish theater group, and they were putting up this performance. So it's a nice photo. I think it's the composition is very nice. But and everybody loves this photo. I think it's easy to like. But if I'm gonna be, I mean, I'm being self-destructive now in saying this. But if I'm honest, it's not my favorite photo of mine. I think it's too
never.
easy. I think it's too easy to like. I think this type of street photography I'm not particularly proud of. I don't. It's a good photo. This photo is good because the composition is very nice and it's very surreal. So there is something interesting about it. But it's just because of that, I think it's kind of too easy to be impressed by or to like. So it's not the kind of photograph I'm really proud of. I'm really proud of some photos I take that are really like might be absolutely nothing, something that you completely ignore on the street, but if you pay attention, it might be something beautiful as a photograph. So that is more meaningful to me.
You say that you like more to work on long-term projects. Can you explain why and how do you build those projects? Because I think it's one thing that's it's very difficult for photographers to do. Usually they
Yeah.
go to the street and they just take random photos without any connection. So could you explain why and how do you do
Yeah.
it and how do you build a project?
I think that's what I was doing initially. I was just going out and taking photos randomly. And then I think some projects, they build themselves in a way. I mean, before I realized it. For example, when I first came here, I to New York. I mean, I started, soon after I was drawn to the Chinatown area because it was um, it felt more real. There was more street life, for example, and it felt less gentrified and less, Disneyfied, because New York has become a little bit, parts of it have become a little bit too polished, and too clean and too fake in a way. So I was drawn to that area because it seemed more, um, real in some ways, and I started photographing a lot there, and then I realized after a while that, okay, a body of work is being built here, because I started accumulating enough photos that I realized, okay, this is a body of work in itself. It's a thematic in itself. Um, Other projects, with time, I started realizing that, just taking random photos is, of course, I still take random photos most of, I mean, but then with time, you can see common themes that might emerge, and you could develop different projects that are thematically consistent, right? Because I think the ultimate goal with photography, I think the main venue for sharing photography with other people is books, right? Of course, you can go to exhibitions, but I think the main thing that one aspires to is to eventually publish some books, right? So for that, you need to have thematically consistent.
Behind the project. Because
Uh, I
when you
I,
have a project,
I think
usually
gone.
usually you build a narrative and a story that
No, I
links
think that
the idea together.
I think I choose a theme, and then I think the narrative builds it, emerges by itself when the work starts accumulating.
So
So,
you
for
don't like
example,
to write like this narrative
no,
text to
no,
go along with
no,
the photos.
no. Usually my projects are thematic. So, for example, like I said, I have a consistent body of work from Chinatown. I have my more straightforward, like New York street photography. I've been in recent years, I've been working on a project on open spaces like the parks. So, that's also a project that starts as a thematic project, and then, once I accumulate enough photos, um,
This one.
this one is actually from the park. Yes, yes. So, for example, this is a great example because this is an old photo.
This is conceptual. It's a bit conceptual. More, it raises more questions than gives answers, or it's not straightforward.
Mm-hmm.
So that reminds me a bit of the movie The Birds.
Uh-huh. Yeah, a little bit, but it's less sinister. It's
But
the
it's really
birds here
nice.
just want to be fed. Um, so sure, of course, there are all these like echoes, right, of other works of art, perhaps. But so this is a good example because I used to go to the park only when it snowed because I love snow and it doesn't snow that often. So whenever it snowed, I would go to the park, but I wouldn't go in other seasons. And then during the pandemic, I started going to the park. And I realized, it's very interesting and fascinating, not just, how people interact with nature, but also, the nature itself is very interesting. Like this landscape is very interesting. So I started going and photographing more consistently. So, for example, when I took this picture several, over 10 years ago, I was not, it was just a random picture. I was walking, in the park one day, there was this guy feeding the birds, and I took this picture, uh, but I didn't think it would be part of a project. And then the project emerged as an idea, several years later.
So
And
you're
now
building a project on parks, and now
I,
people.
I am, yeah, 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 I've been
And
doing
do you
that.
think this is also because you're a psychologist?
No, I don't. How do you mean? What's your idea?
I know you're a psychologist. You like to see people and interpret things and capture emotions because
Yeah, I.
you have a lot of layers in your photos as well,
Mhm.
and they can be very emotional. So you still think it's not related?
No, no, I think it's related in that way. I pay attention. I pay attention to people, and I think maybe I'm more but you don't have to be a psychologist. There are people who are very attuned to others, right? And there are people who are not. They're just looking at their phone, right? And they're not only interested in themselves. So. I think it's about being curious in others and interested in others. So
Do you
if
practice? Do you practice psychology? Are you a
yeah,
psychologist?
that's my job. That's my job. Yes, that's how I pay the rent. Yes.
And do you analyze people a lot, even when you're not working?
Say that again.
Do you analyze people a lot, even when you're not working or when you're
I
because
mean, again, I don't know. I mean, not in the sense that, I think it's like, I think some ways of understanding the world are kind of automatic if you train yourself in, and if you have that inclination, right? For example, I don't know if you're a painter, let's say, and you're very good with colors, you're going to be able to see colors everywhere better than other people, right? You pay attention to the colors maybe in a more nuanced way than the average person, right? So maybe I also, when I interact with others, maybe I pay more attention and I try to understand others, but it's not in the sense that I'm they're not my patients. If I'm not at work, I'm not I'm not when I'm socializing with people, I'm not trying to diagnose them or anything like that. That's not my interest.
I'm picking up now on the colors. It's something a subject that I like. I like colors a lot, and strong colors. So, do you use that as a message and intentionally in your work, or it's secondary and the interactions are a priority?
Well, I think you know that's a good question. I'm not sure how to answer accurately because I think it's a little bit of both because you know I think the color should not take over the picture, but at the same time, obviously I've chosen to do color photography. I used to do black and white, and I love looking at black and white photography if it's good, right? But I realized after a point that I think I'm better with color. I take better pictures in color. So that's my personal interest. Um, but it cannot just be about the color. Then it becomes just formalistic and kind of empty, I think, if you just, trying to impress people because you have very brilliant colors in your pictures, that's kind of very superficial, I think. So I think the color should add something to the picture, but I don't think that's the main thing.
But
I think yeah, go on.
when you choose a scenario, you are mindful of the colors and what the colors are going to bring to that scene, or you're not so mindful of that.
No, I think, I mean, especially if you're doing photography on the street, it's all so random, like it's all up to chance, it's very, very, you cannot control anything, you're just, if you're lucky, you're going to see something interesting in front of your eyes, right? But there is nothing that's under your control when you're walking on the street, right? So, yeah, maybe some people, I do that occasionally, not very often. I know some street photographers, maybe they are more interested in finding an interesting background or something. They find a nice spot that looks, the colors of the wall or whatever look interesting, and then they stand there. Yeah,
You match very well the colors and the color
yes,
palette.
this was
Uh,
very,
so
this
it's
was very,
intuitive in you. It's not.
v-
It's intuition that you have, but it's not on purpose sometimes.
I was just lucky. This was very, very lucky. And also you have to think on your feet and you have to react very quickly. So I hadn't even noticed that wall. I was waiting, I think, to cross the light. I was waiting to cross the street at the light, and then I usually turn around, kind of, to look around, and then I saw this lady was right behind me, and she was walking past, and I literally had 1 second to lift the camera and take the picture, and it just happened that it was this very interesting background with the question marks, and the colors also match very well. But that's what I mean. I think obviously color plays a big role in this picture. It makes it a much better, more interesting picture. But I didn't specifically, I was just lucky that this woman with this amazing headscarf, happened to be walking by, and the wall is this beautiful, light blue color also. So, and it was a good color match. But
How would you interpret this photo, this image?
I don't know.
Ah, come
You
on,
you don't
give
interpret
us
it.
your interpretation.
It's all question marks. How can I interpret it? It's a mystery.
It's a mystery with an old lady. How would you like us to read it?
I don't know. I don't.
Don't be shy. Come on.
No, no. I don't want to have my own reading because I think anybody can look at the photo and have their own reading. I don't want to
Yeah, but you're the
impose.
artist, and the artists we have
Uh,
our reading, our interpretation, and it's okay.
Not necessarily. No, I think it's an interesting photo. I think it's. I mean, maybe the woman looks a little mysterious because she's wearing the scarf and you cannot really see her face. You know, life
Does
is.
this age play a role here? And the question mark
Say that again.
is aging. The age plays a role here, and is it a question mark related with time or
Hey,
something?
you can read it that way. Yeah, you don't know what the future brings, right? We don't know what the future brings in this life. We don't know how
Or
long
the
life.
afterlife here?
I don't know if there's such a thing.
Do you
I
believe in
think
afterlife?
no. I hope there is life before death. Not. I don't know about after death.
You're not a religious person.
No, I don't know. I'm agnostic, but
Me too. So,
I think it's too convenient to think that of course nobody wants life to end, right? Of course we want to be an afterlife because then that means we live eternally, right? But I doubt it. I think we should make the most of this life. And if there is an afterlife, all the better. But I don't think we can count on that. I think we should I think even if we don't believe in the afterlife, I think we don't we're not spending our time very wisely in this life. We waste so much time and I don't think we use our time very well. So I think it's good to try to be a little more conscious of the fact that it doesn't last forever, and we should maybe make the most of it.
we have our interpretation. Go on. Someone has. We have our interpretation. Go on. I don't know the comment. It's
Okay.
not a question. So, do you think it's easier to photograph in black and white or in color?
I mean, for me, it's in color, but I don't know. I mean, I
Why?
think the world is in color. I mean, we see it in color. So, look, black and white photography was an accident technique. It was an accident of like, what's the word I'm looking for? People had not developed the technical ability to take color pictures when photography was invented, right? So it was a historical accident that photography used to be black and white. Of course, by coincidence, it turns out that it can be a very beautiful art form, right? By abstracting from the world, abstracting the colors, you can create a different kind of reality that can be very, very beautiful, right? But um, in a way, it was just an accident that black and white photography was what photography was at the beginning. So, the world is in color. I'm interested in colors. I do love looking at good black and white photography. But I think, I don't know.
But
Uh,
my view or my experience is color can bring noise and sometimes
yeah,
even
that's true.
damage a bit the image if you don't know uh, how to choose the colors and the set
Yeah,
properly to add something to the photo. So it's very difficult, and some photographers do that very well. Others, it's a big mess.
yeah,
Whereas black and white is monochromatic. It's just the scene that you want, and it doesn't make a photo better as well. Sometimes people think that turning a bad
right.
photo in black and white is going to be great. It isn't,
Yeah,
but it simplifies. It takes that layer.
yeah. I,
And
I agree. I agree with you, and that's what I was saying before. That I do think that color is difficult because there is the risk that it could take over the photo and it would just be about the colors, or if the colors don't work, they could ruin a photo that otherwise could be a nice, a nice composition. But I also agree with you that the opposite is true. That some people think, oh, because it's black and white, it looks more artistic, and I think that's also kind of a trap, right? Sometimes just because it's black and white, it just maybe hides its limitations more easily. A photo that's not very good, it could hide its limitations more easily if it's black and white, but I don't think the black and white saves it.
There's a
It's
bit
the,
of the snobism currently that good photographers are black and white. They're so
yeah,
they're
yeah.
plastic. I think that's. I'm not saying crap because it's not very nice. I think it is what it is. A good photographer knows how to take photos in black and white and color because it's the message, right, and the story that you bring to the table. So I think it's one of those trends. Like a good photographer is a black and white one. For me, it's more difficult actually to tell a story in color that makes
Mhm.
sense. I'm going to show you now one. Let me see if it's in the right
Okay.
position. I like this
Oh,
a lot.
see, I have done black and white, and this is one of the first photos I took many years ago because I'm old. And this is a portrait, as you can see. It's an unconventional portrait, and it's my grandmother.
So
And
sweet.
at that time, she was already in her 90s, and then she lived to be 103 years old.
Wow.
Um, and I have other portraits of her. I was very fond of her. Um, and she was also like a very, an old Greek lady who was interesting to photograph. She had the face of a person who has lived a lot. Um, but this is the best portrait of her that I have, and I do call it a portrait because I think it is a portrait, even though you cannot see her face. I think you can, get it's evocative, and you get a sense of this person. I think from this. So um, this photo, yeah, this works well in black and white, right? So I have done black and white, and I do like black and white work, but now I really have focused on color.
Do you think when you photograph New York, you photograph as an outsider, as a Greek person, an immigrant, or a expat now? It's
So
more
that's a very
trendy,
good.
or since outsider was an insider, someone already very involved and part of the system.
No, that's a great question actually. So um, again, I'm not sure I can give you a straightforward answer. Obviously, in some ways, I'm much less of an outsider because I've been here for 20 years now, over 20 years. So I'm much less of an outsider. On the other hand, I think every person who has, uh, you know, emigrated and has established a life in a new country, it's a common feeling that you don't entirely feel at home anywhere anymore. I'm not feeling entirely at home in my home country in Greece now, but I also don't feel it entirely at home here. So in some sense, I do still feel a little bit as an outsider. But I think the more interesting way of looking at this is as a photographer, because I think a photographer is always a little bit of an outsider, right? Because you always, you're kind of in the periphery of things and you observe, right? So you're not participating, you're observing and you're documenting as a photographer. Um, there is a great, there's a writer called Hanya Yanagihara, and she has a great essay, um, I think, in the New Yorker magazine, maybe from 10 years ago or so, called Loneliness Belongs to the Photographer. And she's saying that, the main condition of being a photographer is um, that in a way it's a very lonely kind of pursuit. You embrace the loneliness and you kind of observe, but at the same time, by doing that, I think it's an attempt to overcome the loneliness and to connect with other people, and to because especially now, you see it like everybody's very in their own bubble, right? I mean, everybody's just looking at their cell phone all the time, and nobody pays attention to their surroundings, and people are very isolated in a way. So the photographer is the person who pays attention and who kind of tries to, connect with people by noticing them, by feeling that, okay, this is an interesting person to take a photo of. I think it's a gesture of connecting with others, and but it comes from a position of like being, in a way, being the outsider.
Do you think the camera is somehow a wall between that connection and is a protection for the photographer? Because usually photographers, they don't like to be photographed because you're
Mm,
vulnerable and exposed. When you're behind the camera, we have the control and we're
that's
not
true.
exposed. We're just analyzing and observing. How do you see?
Yes. So what was the question exactly? I'm sorry.
I was just talking to you because I don't know, because I feel for me, when I also lived abroad for several years in London. I'm from an island. I came from the mainland, so I totally understand you and relate when you say we don't belong to any place, anywhere. So the question I'm going to ask you now: where is home for you?
Hmm. Um, Well, the honest answer now is, I have a little daughter, so home is wherever my daughter is. So home is here now in New York,
Do you think?
and
Go on.
yeah,
Sorry.
but yeah, I mean in the sense that, if I had to go elsewhere with my daughter, because of circumstances or whatever, that would be home. So the priorities change, I think. It's
So home is never a physical place.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. Yeah,
It's
that's a
always
good way of putting it.
emotional and where emotions take you.
So in some ways, New York is home, but in some ways, Greece is also, because when you grow up in a place, you have a different kind of emotional connection, even if you've been away for many years. So mm,
Do you think you're
I
more
think
Greek or more American?
I really don't know. I'm not. I'm neither. I'm neither. Like I said,
You're
I'm
a mix.
neither. Yeah, I'm not. I'm not typically Greek in some ways. Even when I was living there, I maybe, I was not 100% completely at home, but I cannot also say I'm 100%, American. Of course not. I mean, I'm an immigrant, so I am American now, but I'm not. I didn't grow up here, so I don't have the same sense of connection with the place that you have. Because I think the experiences you have in childhood are really very formative in life, and I think the memories you have from the early years are very, very formative of who you are, and how you where you feel you belong. So
That's what I think in your photography. You're people from the Mediterranean, right? Portugal, Spain, Italy, Greece. We are all perceived as more emotional, and maybe
hmm
we are than northern
hmm
countries and even United States. And I think your photos show that you have this
hmm
connection, emotional connection on your photos. That, as you say, it's not only aesthetics; it really tells a story, and maybe that's your background as well. Because
hmm
Greece always have a story, and people are very warm,
yeah.
talkative. I love this photo that I'm going to show you
Okay.
because it brings. I'm not going to. I'm going to show you. You know what? Because I don't know. It brings always to our childhood. But this one is. I don't know. I don't know if I feel a bit sad or happy with it.
Yes, it's a nice photo. I love it too. So I think there is a melancholy about this photo. Yeah, there is a sadness. Um, there's a parade for Halloween every year here in New York, and I only maybe photographed it a couple of times, and this is a photo from like maybe I think 2007, 2008, from a long time ago. And I was still shooting film at that time, so this is actually film, and that's part of the reason the colors are so beautiful because film is really very beautiful. But yeah, I was drawn to this scene because the little child seems a little exhausted or maybe a little, I don't know, upset about something.
But also they
Uh,
have, it's like a bit of solitude and abandon despite
yeah,
having two grown-ups near him,
yeah,
which,
and I think they were trying to encourage him to get up, or so. I'm not sure what's happening, but there is this, yeah, there is this kind of tension between the fact that they're in their costumes for Halloween, right? Which is a happy occasion. People are excited, they celebrate, but the little child seems a little sad or you know um,
what
yeah.
drawn you to this photo?
It's more meaningful. It's a more meaningful human moment than fake. I've photographed parades a lot also because there are many parades here, and I started photographing because I was interested because every um, immigrant community they have their own parade, and that's part of what makes New York unique because it's the whole planet basically condensed in this small geographical area. So you literally have people from like all over the world here, and they each community they have their celebrations and their parades, and that was meaningful to me. How being an immigrant myself also, but again, a parade is a spectacle. People present. They want to present something that's very impressive or whatever when they walking down the avenue. So I'm more interested in the sidelines. I'm interested in what happens in the background because that's where you can see the real human stories, I think, not just a spectacle that's a little bit fake, maybe.
Do you consider yourself a humanist?
I don't know what what does that mean.
Uh, I don't know. Humanists is usually photographers that focus a lot on human and emotions and.
Yeah, I guess in that sense, I know I was being a little hypocritical. I kind of know what it means in photography, but I think human is
To
I
capture
think it.
the essence, as you say, not sometimes the spectacle, but the essence.
So look, I think humanist photography has been associated. You know, there are great photographers. You could say were humanists, like Walker Evans. You could say Walker Evans was a humanist in a way, right? You could say I don't know Dorothea Lange or people like that. But also sometimes I think what we call humanist photography is also sometimes a little you know how should I say, not very high quality for like it's just too romantic and too sentimental, I guess that's the word. So that's not good photography, right? Like I don't know.
We have
So
Alice Crutil has a question for you. Do you have any tips how to improve at street photography?
just go out and walk and walk and walk and take pictures. There's no other way of improving. You just keep doing it. You just keep doing it. And also, you should look at the work of the great photographers, not just Instagram. People, especially younger people now, I think, they know nothing about the history of the medium and they just know what they see on Instagram. And, the number of followers or likes is not necessarily the best measure for the quality of the work. So, I'm just concerned because I'm guessing, there are people who are, very enthusiastic about street photography, but maybe they just, especially younger people who maybe just grew up in the last 20, 25 years, all they know is what they've seen online and they don't know what the history of the medium is. And, that also limits your, um, I think your perception of what what you can do as a street photographer, because uh, there's a lot of work that's been produced, I think in the last, you know, couple of decades that's not very good, but maybe has a lot of following on Instagram because sometimes it's easier to like photos that are not very demanding. Like for example, there's a type of street photography with all those visual jokes, right? I find that I don't want to I want to say something that's not very offensive, but I don't find that very worthwhile, let's say. Like you see those photos where I don't know, and some of them are also kind of vulgar jokes, like visual. It's like, okay, we're not 10 years old to be, and I think it's cultivated the sensitivity of people who have only grown up looking at Instagram or whatever. They might think, oh, that's good street photography when you see a stupid visual joke. That's not what it is. So I would encourage everybody to just like really study the work of the great photographers, and also watch a lot of good movies. That also helps you learn to see. You know, it really, I think.
Currently, there's something that I think should be a concern to street photographers, even for having a good reputation, right?
Uh-huh.
The street photography is how do you respect your subjects and take photos that don't diminish them or take in a certain bad way, because one thing is on the 60s, in the 70s, you would take a photo, but it was limited, the exposure, right? Could go to an exhibition or a newspaper, but that's it. Now you
Right.
capture someone in a more complicated situation or doesn't, I don't know, favor them, and millions of people are seeing that photo.
Hmm.
That person
Yeah.
didn't give their consent because it's
Yeah.
not necessary. And I think some people have a keen eye for that, or like to take that kind of photo to expose people in more ridiculous situations, or more vulnerable ones.
Yeah.
For me, I don't know what. I don't like that kind of photo. I wouldn't like to be exposed like that.
Yeah.
And I think we have the responsibility to respect people, and
I agree. I agree.
otherwise
I think.
our street photography is going to be
Yeah.
perceived as something nasty.
I think there are two separate issues. I think the issue of consent, I think, that's very stupid, especially in this day and age, because, there's no expectation of privacy in the street, right? There are security cameras everywhere, So especially in this day and age, for people to say, oh, you took my photo, I think it's kind of idiotic because, it's one thing if you take a photo of somebody without their knowledge in their home, right? With a telephoto lens or something, right, from across the street. But when you're out in a public space, there is no expectation of privacy, really, right? You're in a public space among other people, and it's also like where would art? We wouldn't imagine if all the great photographers, William Klein and Cartier-Bresson, and all the classic photographers, if they were not allowed to take candid pictures of the street, we wouldn't have all these great artworks now. So I think that argument doesn't work for me. Uh, yeah, I understand. It's happened to me that somebody took my photo on the street. I didn't like it particularly, but it's not the end of the world. Okay, it's not such a
I'm
big
not
deal.
saying
But the issue of like taking photos that would put people that would humiliate people, let's say, or ridicule, that's completely unacceptable. I think it's very low hanging fruit. For example, one thing I don't like doing, you know again, there's a subgenre of street photography where you see people photos of people sleeping in public. If the person is asleep, I wouldn't take a photo of them because they're very vulnerable in that. If they're asleep on the street, I don't think it's right to take a photo of them because they don't even know that you're doing it. Um, so, or people who are like invulnerable, like I don't know. somebody who is disabled or something, and you take a photo of them because you think it's fun. Obviously that's completely, but it's not just ethically unacceptable. I think that artistically, that's also aesthetically, that doesn't make a strong work of art. If it's just such an easy target.
Yeah. So, what are you currently exploring that you haven't explored before?
So, like I said, I'm exploring some new themes. Like I've been photographing in the park, but I've also been photographing nature. Not people. Just nature. And I'm trying to do this kind of impressionistic, semi-abstract. And I don't show this work, at least not yet, but it's it's pleasing to me to experiment with something else. I'm experimenting a little bit with different formats also because for many years I only had one lens. I had a 28 millimeter, and that's all I used because I think it's great for street photography. But more recently, I've been trying to experiment a little bit also with the 50 millimeter and like depth of field, like maybe shallow depth of field. I always, for my street work, I like everything to be sharp. I like to have, very um, um, very wide depth of field, so everything is sharp. But for other things, I've been experimenting now with shallow depth of field and with bokeh and things like that. And I think again it can be very easy and you see hundreds of videos on YouTube about bokeh and all. I think it can be a very gimmicky thing and very it can be done in a way that's just gimmicky, like black and white. If black and white is just done just because it's black and white, it's worthless, right? But there is a way of like really, using bokeh to make something that I think that is interesting. And I've also been photographing a little bit with film again. So I love panoramic, and I started shooting panoramic film because it's a very nice format that I like. So I've been doing that a little bit.
Okay.
So
And we are almost 1 hour. So Instagram after 1 hour just chats. But I still have one question for you. Is after all these years, what has photography taught you about life, if anything?
I mean, it has taught me that life is very fleeting. I mean, really, you can see, especially with street photography, it's literally like, a split second can make a difference between a good photo and a completely failed photo. So, and also, nothing happens twice usually, once the moment is gone, it's gone. So, um, it's good to be, alert to that, to the passage of time. And it's also taught me that, the world is an interesting place. It's interesting to pay attention to the lives of others, not just be interested in yourself. You see, I mean, we are weird people who are on Instagram because we post photos that we take on the street or whatever. But the majority of people on Instagram post selfies of themselves, right? That's what people do on Instagram, and everybody's just obsessed with themselves, and they don't pay attention to anything else. And I think that's very, limiting, and kind of
And
shrinks down the world.
do you think
I
in
think
life it's the same? Everything, it's a split of a second and can change dramatically and
I think so. I think so. Yeah, I think so. I think we need to, uh, obviously we all have lives and we have obligations. We cannot be spending every moment like doing very meaningful things, right? We also have to do the laundry and like go, you know, go to work and do things like that. But to the extent that we can, I think it's good to remember that, um, yeah, it doesn't last forever, and I mean, it's again, I'm gonna sound like an old person, but I mean, there was a time when people didn't spend 5 hours a day on their phone, right, scrolling um, on Instagram, and you know, um, sometimes we can find other interesting things to do.
It's true. It's weird, but it's like an addiction, and
It is
I don't
very,
know if
very
we all
addictive.
suffer a bit of that. I'm trying to be less on the phone, but I have
I
to
know.
confess that I can be a bit addicted to it as
It,
well.
it's very addictive. It's not your fault. It's made to be addictive to everybody. It's
And
addictive.
it's
It's
true.
designed that way. Yeah.
And it's frustrating because I was born in an island that when we were children, we would go to the streets and, we would
Right.
play and
Right.
socialize and have all, we didn't have these screens. And so we
Yeah.
lived fully. And now we
Yeah.
just, and you can see even in Instagram and most of the photographs, people are captured looking into the phone.
Yeah.
It's so
Yeah.
sad. You go to a restaurant, you see
Yeah.
people all looking into the phone.
Yeah, it's also made street photography harder because yeah, I mean you are on the street and everybody's looking at their phone instead,
It's always the same.
there was more interaction before. There was more like, people, even if it's just like looking at each other or whatever, you could see those kind of scenes on the street, like, two strangers looking at each other or something. Now nobody's looking at anybody else. They're just looking at their phone.
Yeah,
So
it's true.
yeah.
But do you want to leave a final message in this live to the community or to the people that like photography?
Like I said, if you like this and you want to do it, you just there's no magic recipe for getting better. I think you just have to train your eyes. You just have to um, expose yourself to as much good art as you can. And not just photography. I think I learned more about how to see from movies and look at paintings, read novels, like whatever can cultivate your sensitivity about other people. I think that can make you a better photographer. So
And also, you will get your 10,000 steps really easy.
oh yeah.
It's good for your health and
It's
fitness.
good for your health also. Yes.
Dimitri, thank you very much for being here on a
Thank you
Sunday.
so much for having me. I really appreciate your time.
Your stay is also thanking you, and he loves your work. It was really lovely to meet you and
You
talk to
as
you.
well.
It went
Thank you so
really
much for
fast.
huh?
It
Thank you for
really
selecting some really interesting photos to show. And thank you
I
for the
could have
interesting
shown
discussion.
more, but I don't know. I wanted to take some information from you because I think you
Okay.
have a lot of things there to convey, and due to your background,
Sure.
European and being a psychologist. But thank you very much. It was very
Well,
interesting. And
if
please go to Dimitri's page. His work is
sure.
lovely.
If
And
you want to see more, that's what I was gonna say. Go follow me on Instagram. Um, yeah, and I should be more diligent. I don't post very frequently, but I'm working on becoming a little more disciplined about that because I know you have to post all the time for people to not lose interest. So,
and if you
but
come
yeah,
to Lisbon, let me know. It will be a pleasure to meet you.
thank you so much. I really
Thank you so
appreciate it.
much and have a lovely week.
You as well. Take
Bye bye.
care. Thank you. Bye.